Don't you know, we're talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper. Don't you know, it sounds like a whisper. While they're standing in the welfare lines, crying at the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time in the unemployment lines, sitting around waiting for a promotion. Don't you know, talking about a revolution. It sounds whisper. Poor people gonna rise up and get their share. Poor people gonna rise up and take what's theirs. Don't you know you better run, 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 run. Oh, I said you better run, 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 run. 'Cause finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about a revolution. 'Cause finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about a revolution. Talking about a revolution, while they're standing in the welfare lines, crying at the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time in the unemployment lines, sitting around waiting for a promotion. Don't you know, talking about a revolution sounds like a whisper. And finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about a revolution. Yes, finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about a revolution. Oh no. Talking about a revolution. Oh no. Talking about a revolution. Oh no.
Welcome, Womanjika, Kia ora, aya, bienvenida, everybody. My name is Paz Pazarski, and I have the absolute pleasure of being your host for today. And today you are arriving in a public event which is in partnership with the incredible Discourse on the topic of leveraging AI to become more efficient. Super spicy, super relevant. And we are actually just blown away that we had over 165 people register for this topic. I think it's such a testament to obviously the importance and the relevance. So you are in the right room. And we are so excited to bring together an incredible lineup in this room, which is Sam Saffron from Discourse, Vanessa Paik from Australian Community Managers, and Michael Bacco from Puddle Pod. We will introduce them to you very, very soon. Oh, we can have a round of applause now for them. Love that. Love that energy from you. Well, if this is the first time that you are joining an event between Discourse and the Community Collective, we are a community for community builders. And at the Community Collective, we serve businesses to build the most impactful communities of our time. And we actually do that through our community cohort program, consulting to help businesses build a community strategy, as well as recruitment to hire community talent. I see a lot of CCNs on this call, so if you're one of them, please add a reaction and an emoji in the chat to show some love. And a ritual we have here at the start of every live session we do at the CC is to do an acknowledgement of country. And I know that we've got people tuning in from all over the world. So really, if this is the first time you're hearing about an acknowledgement of country, it really is to pay our respects to the Indigenous owners of the land. And I am based in Torquay, which is a regional surf town in Victoria, in Australia. And I'm on the land of the Wadawurrung people today. So just on behalf of all of us, if you are able to, I'd love you to raise your physical hand, not the virtual hand, like a physical hand, if you are able to do that. And on behalf of everyone here, I would just like to pay our respects to all of the elders that have ever came before us and all of the elders who are with us here today. The traditional owners have cultivated this land, and we would wouldn't be here without them. So now you can give yourselves a high five for joining. And if you don't know where the traditional owners are of the land that you're tuning in from today, you can find the link in the chat. We've got our events associate, Sanchi, here, who is our tech master. She'll be looking after all of you in the chat. If you have any questions or comments, she will be there to help you. Okay, speaking of tech, maybe this is your first time using Butter, not the delicious dairy spread, but actually this tech conferencing tool. So Butter is a tool from actually one of our members, the head of community, Anna Maria. She's based in the Netherlands, showed us Butter about 2 years ago, and we've been using it ever since. If this is new for you, you'll find some really fun reactions on the left. Feel free to pick your favorite. Mine is number 4. And we also have the soundboard reactions you can do in Butter. Only I can control that because that would be mayhem. But the biggest thing for you right now as participants is, or as humans, as legends in this room, is the I have a question function. So at any point during the audience Q&A, if you have a question, you can be bold and click that button and jump up on stage with the mic and ask your question live. If you are on the run and don't want to show your face today, that's totally cool. You can be in the chat, which a lot of you have found already. Okay, so let's talk about the purpose of today. You know, we're here to talk about AI and being really efficient. We really want to delve into the practical insights about how you can leverage this technology to actually be more productive and make better use of your time in your day-to-day lives. Whether you're an operator, a founder, maybe you're a community builder, this is really a time for you to understand actually what are the emerging trends. What are the tech tools? How can you leverage AI to 10x your productivity and really understand the different real world examples that people in this industry are using? We've got some absolute experts on the call, as well as all of you. So collectively, we've got a lot of knowledge in this room. And so I'd encourage you as well to please share your tips in the chat. If you found a great ChatGPT prompt, like don't hide it, share it with us. We really would make this a collective learning experience. Now, before I jump into the agenda, I really would like to also acknowledge our partners at Discourse. This event would not have been made possible without them. We have been working closely with their team, and as well, I wanted to explain a little bit more about Discourse if you've never heard of them. So Discourse was founded in 2013 with 3 co-founders who are super passionate about online discussion. They are a platform to be the online home for your community. So they're a really great tool to basically make meaningful conversations and for people to collaborate from anywhere around the world, obviously with a Wi-Fi connection. And today, many incredible brands are hosted on their platform, including Atlassian, Samsung, Asana, even OpenAI are hosted on Discord. I heard they signed up maybe just yesterday because of this event. No, I'm just kidding. They've been around the traps, but the Discourse team are over 98 people across 26 countries now, and their co-CEOs, Sam, are based here on this side of the world in Sydney, and Hawk in New Zealand. So I just wanted to acknowledge them, as well as May and Andre, for helping us support this event. There's been a lot of behind the scenes to get here today. So how today is going to work, we're going to do a check-in. We're then going to introduce you to our panelists. We're going to dive into some questions. We had over 165 questions submitted for this event, so I don't think we'll get through all of them, or maybe I'll ask Batco every single one of them in a speed round afterwards, but we'll see how we go. And after that, we want to allow for even more questions from you here live today before we wrap up with some thank yous, some announcements. We're going to close, celebrate, have a dance party, and we're going to go on our way. Now, we also do encourage you to take some photos, screenshots, use your phone. If you do want to share anything on socials, you are welcome to, and also just to tag the Community Collective and Discourse. If you tag both of us on LinkedIn or Instagram, we might even share our tech tool directory with you for free afterwards. So speaking of photos, we always get a group photo at the start of our events to actually not just get a good shot, but for you to also see all of the people who are joining here live today. So if you'd like to turn on your camera and be bold and be included in the shot, you are totally welcome. Oh, we've got Hawk here. Love that. And Vanessa, I might ask you to give us a hand gesture, and we're just all going to copy you.
I'd love to. So nothing subversive, nothing too problematic. I reckon we go with some bunny ears. What do you think? So
yeah, let's do it. All right, everyone, we're doing some bunny ears. All right, 3, 2, 1. Everyone looks we've got 2 pages of people. Next page, 3, 2, 1. Oh, wow. Everyone looks fabulous over here. Paula, it's like confetti when you do that. That is hilarious. Oh, wow. Thank you all so much for leaning into
Nice work,
that.
everyone.
Yeah, collective experience. Speaking of collective experiences, we have another ritual here at the CC, which is to do a check-in. So this is to give everyone a voice at the start of a session. We're not actually going to pass the mic to all the people here live today, but what we're going to ask you is, how confident are you with AI? You know, there's a lot of talk around AI. I'd love you to stamp on this interactive, what would you call it? A slide, if you will. And if you're on the left, perhaps you've never used AI before. You're like, what is AI? Is that, something I've never heard of? Perhaps you use it weekly. Maybe you're on a bit of the right of that. You're using it daily, or you're actually just a legend and you're building AI tools and you should be running this webinar and I should get off the stage, basically. All right, we've got a lot of people in the middle using it weekly. We've got no one who's never used AI. That is actually fascinating. We've got quite a few people who are building AI tools. I'm so glad, Sam, you're one of them. That is sick. And a lot of people who are using it probably daily in their roles, which is awesome to see. So we've got a pretty well-versed crew here, which is great. So that is a big round of applause for all of you sharing your insights and learning more about AI. All right, everyone, we're going to introduce you to our fabulous panelists. And let me just quickly get rid of these elements on the buttery landscape. But first up, I would love to introduce you to Sam Saffron, who is the co-founder and co-CEO of Discourse, where he also leads their AI team, which has been for over 10 years. And he also is a developer at Stack Overflow. And Sam is based in Sydney. So Sam, thank you so much for being here today. And
thanks.
Yeah, no worries at all. And we also have Ness here as well, who's based down the road from me in Geelong. And Vanessa is the co-founder and director of Australian Community Managers, which is the National Centre of Excellence for Online Community Management Training, and also has lots of incredible reports and data on the industry as well. She's also a published academic and lecturer and PhD candidate of the University of Sydney. And Ness, I mean, you wrote a thesis on the impacts of AI on community management. Have you submitted this thesis already, or are we still in the final
Not yet.
stages?
I'm very close to, but yes, deep in the weeds of it, as you might say. So yes, a subject close to my heart. And thank you for inviting me to join the panel.
My absolute pleasure. And lucky last, we've got Bacco here as the CEO at StartMate, which is the epicenter for startup ambition across Australia and New Zealand, which I would explain as an accelerator in one word. And also is the founder of Puddle Pod, which is a productivity course and also a community as well. And Bacco is tuning in from Sydney. How are you today, Bacco?
I'm well. Excited for the conversation.
Awesome.
I'm probably going to learn the most out of anybody.
We're all here to collectively learn, so I'm super pumped. All right, well, let's jump straight in. Ness, I'm going to throw to you first. Can you help us set the scene and just ensure that everyone here live and everyone on the recording later on is actually on the same page about what AI actually is and what it isn't? So how would you describe it? Do you have an analogy that you could help explain it? Take the floor, Vanessa.
Look, it's a great question, probably really important to do first up because as my illustrious colleagues on the panel will, I'm sure, attest, that even now, although it's now quite pervasive, quite a feature of mainstream discourse, there's not really even now a single consensus definition of what AI is. And that's partly because, not unlike community, it's our relationship to it can be quite individualized, so that it's quite a broad set of systems and tools, everything from something as mundane as automation, which exists outside of AI, but is also a part of many AI systems, through to things like large language learning models and machine learning and machine vision and, kind of bleeding into robotics and these sorts of things. So it's really an ecosystem of sets of computer tools and systems that perform tasks, and this is where the AI bit comes in, that historically we would typically have assumed that probably only a human was capable of doing. So something like critical thinking, or kind of having a conversation with another human being, things like that. So over time, that set of technologies and systems has become more and more sophisticated. The ecosystem has grown around it as well. So it's not one thing, but it's a whole bunch of stuff. So something like algorithms, right, which we all contended with online for decades, are very much a feature of many AI systems, but in and of themselves, we wouldn't call an algorithm AI. So does that kind of make sense? It's this ecosystem of stuff, and many tools and interfaces and products that dip into and stack up bits and pieces of those technologies designed to solve very particular problems or use cases. The analogy that I go to a lot, although it's probably a bit out of date these days, historically my analogy's kind of been, because I'm a bit of a Marvel girl, kind of Tony Stark and Iron Man. So thinking of AI kind of as that co-pilot, right? Rather than any kind of replacement technology, rather than a computer that is quite a dumb or blunt instrument. Tony Stark is a massive mad genius. He built himself this incredible fancy computerized suit that has AI built into it, can do amazing things. It can function on its own. It can go off and fly and do things without him. But he's ultimately the creator of that, the curator of that. He's kind of in control. They can have dialogue and conversations, but together they're a team. He's the author and kind of the configurer, if you like, the curator of the problems that it solves, but together they're at their most superpowery. Does that make sense?
100%. I love that. It's like humans, we should always be working with AI as our sidekicks, and we'll be the heroes to make sure they don't take over our lives in that sense. So now that's really awesome to hear that, Ness. And Sam, I might throw to you in terms of what are you noticing with the opportunities that we're seeing across the landscape, the trends that we're seeing as AI becomes more prominent?
Well, I guess the first trend is that people are spending a lot of money on this stuff. So if you look at NVIDIA stock in the last year, you can see a company that's skyrocketed, and every single big tech company is heavily invested in these technologies. And I guess the big thing that changed is that large language models became a thing that everybody is interested in. And over the last year, and now there's no company that has been left untouched by this technology. I think the industry at the moment is trying to figure out what actually is productive that we can do with these tools, and everybody is kind of madly experimenting to see, will it help here? Will it not help there? And it's kind of the honeymoon phase for this technology in lots of ways. I guess it's kind of a wide answer there.
Yeah, I love that.
More.
Yeah, no, that's great, Sam, because I can relate to that. I think you're spot on, because we did some research last year of kind of interviewing some community builders in the space saying, how are you using AI? Like, what kind of opportunities are they seeing? And the ways that people are testing it are so broad. And it could be personally or massively with their teams or communities. But I think that people are trying to realize, how can I be more effective by using this technology? But there also seems to be this element of like, I don't want to be left behind, almost like this frantic nature as well. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And let's get a bit more practical. So Bacco, I might come to you. How have you been using AI? Are you testing and learning and throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks? Like how have you been using it in day to day?
Yeah, for sure. So by the way, I am absolutely not an AI expert. This is probably like my part of the panel, which is to give the practical tips of how I'm using it. And I genuinely just use it for myself. And what we have is at PaddlePod as well as a 5-week course where I've actually got a friend who is an AI expert running it. But I can actually give you a couple of really cool examples of how I've been using it and exploring AI in my day-to-day. I'll start kind of with the easiest ones, which is probably what everybody's tried. It's like, I don't know, for me, it's literally just like, I need to come up with the name of this meeting. And I want it to start with the same letter. I want it to be 3 words and have strategy as part of it. Like such an easy prompt, right? Like literally put it into ChatGPT, but like I do use the one all the time. The second one is a bit more advanced, and again, most people would have tried this one already. It's like I want to write a coffee shop review into Bean Hunter or something like that. And we're just like literally Austrian, 33 years old, who works in tech, where like the coffee was okay, but not great, the ambient, etc., etc. The cool thing is here you can play around with personas and actually write a coffee review and really describe like what tone of voice you want. Then that's already like kind of making a prompt way better. And I love the creating an image feature. I use the one all the time. Create images or logos, which is a super easy one. Hidden trick for everybody, which I absolutely have loved, is I don't know if you've got this issue with when you post on social media and you need something with this really particular X pixels times X pixel or this width and this length. And I'm terrible with design. And I literally just put the picture into ChatGPT and I've been like, hey, I need this resolution. And it did this width, and it just resizes the image. Game changer, so cool. I'll give you another two, and then I'll stop. But I have also loved asking it just for the right Excel and Google Sheet formula. Hey, I need this date, and I need to add 6 months to it. What is the formula I should use? A game changer, because it literally gives you that formula straight away, and you just copy and paste it into Google Sheets or Excel. Two final examples actually. Sorry, it's two. And it's just because like those are all literally use cases from like the last 2 weeks. At StartMate, when people apply for the accelerator, we ask our founders at the application stage, who would be your dream mentor? But actually on purpose, we'll leave that box as a free text field. And if you ever have worked with data, free text field is a shocking data format to work with. And there's so much cleaning up to do. And if you get 500 applications, you literally get so much text and data. So I'll literally copy and paste that into ChatGPT and ask it to summarize and give you a table of the most commonly mentioned names categorized by highest to lowest. And within 10 seconds, you've got the entire thing analyzed and done, which is awesome. Final one, just to actually end on a fun note, this is from one of our founders, Olivia from Empathics. You might have seen it on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago as well. And her use case, which was amazing, because by the way, she works in AI in the recruitment space. And so if you're hiring and want to do this with AI, check out Empathics. But I loved hers. She's like, I fly between Australia and New Zealand so often that what I do now is I literally, when I book my flight seat, I take a screenshot of the available seats. I put it into ChatGPT and ask it, what's the most likely seat to not be taken by anyone? And then she takes the seat right next to it. So she has 2 or 3 seats, which are potentially free on her flight. And I just I love that one in terms of prediction.
Oh my God. I love that. I just booked flights to Madrid. So maybe I'll do that with Pacific. Thanks, Becco. It's a long flight. That's super practical and like so, diverse in all of its utilization. I think something I can riff off there as well, Becco, is that element of analyzing large data inputs. Obviously, with StartMate Accelerator, you have so many applications, trying to sift through that using AI as your sidekick. So you're still the superhero to actually sift through that data faster is so cool. And something that we've been trying at the CC as well is we come into companies and we audit their community. And we've just wrapped up a project where we did countless surveys. We did in-depth one-on-one interviews. So we had all 30 pages of transcripts and then all the survey data. And we have to analyze what are the core themes, and using ChatGPT to feed in that data and tell us the core themes has been really practical. But obviously having to cross-check a lot of it with just to make sure it got some of the answers right. But I might just dig a little bit deeper on these kind of use cases while we're on this question. How have you been using AI in your day-to-day life? Obviously, you've done a lot of study of it and the impacts, but how have you been utilizing it?
So some similar ways to sort of that Atco was describing. So that's what I said in the chat, those kind of micro, semi-mundane sort of things that really do benefit from, kind of if you didn't have AI, you might be like, is there somebody who just wants some kind of mundane or tedious work that I can be like, can you just do this for me? I could do it, but it's going to take a lot of time and it's really tedious. So those sort of small fry tasks, the mundane stuff, is incredibly helpful. I think to answer your question, both myself and in conversations with lots of other community managers around the world, I see it being used in some pretty interesting ways, some of which are not actually terribly new, but the new sets of technologies are amplifying and enhancing the way this is happening. So things like networking and matching, obviously. So again, and this is all, this is sort of a bit of a given, but worth calling out. This is all incredibly dependent on your community context. So that's sort of something we'll probably talk about a bit later, is being very careful about context when you're using AI. But, if networking and connection and kind of matchmaking folk within a community is a key objective of that community, and one of the things that users are wanting to get out of it, then using AI to assist that. If you're capturing sets of criteria and your AI tools are able to make some educated matches based on that, that can take a lot of the hand holding out of that process, and you can still continue to maintain the human element, of course, in really important ways, but it can really help you scale that if scale is an objective as well. In terms of kind of content generation and things like that, so communities that require or seek to create quite a lot of content either for or with their members, using tools like ChatGPT and a lot of others now to teach the system, this is the kind of stuff we want, we need, that would bring value to us, would deepen our sense of community in these key ways. Here's a whole bunch of criteria, here's a whole bunch of prompts, help us figure this out. And they don't need to follow that like gospel, but it's a great idea generation tool, obviously. And this is, again, building on previous technologies that did similar things. I've seen some interesting experiments, and as far as I know, the technology is not super advanced yet, but it probably will be very soon. Around information management in communities as well. So communities that might be primarily online, where you're dealing, say they're a knowledge-based community or support community or any kind of peer support community. We've got lots and lots of material, media, text, information. You typically, a community manager or a community librarian or somebody, or maybe members will be responsible for kind of sorting through that, assigning that value and meaning, prioritizing that content, doing the weeding, elevating the great stuff, all that sort of stuff. And AI can increasingly help you with that as well. So sort of, again, that content layer of how do we ascertain if something is valuable? What's our criteria set for that? Can we then automatically promote something based on that? Can we help organize things? Can we move this set of content over here or archive it after a certain amount of time? Whatever the particular archival or sort of informational agricultural means that you have in play, AI tool sets can now start to assist with that as well. So that's a really great way to keep content fresh, keep it relevant, make sure that you're generating content that's engaging folk, be stimulating and cultivating the kind of relationships that you want to, those sort of things. And then obviously, and this is definitely not new, but continuing to build on sort of the engagement prompting, strategic and tactical engagement prompting that's been a part of most community systems for quite some time. So it might be a re-engagement nudge, or it might be reminding folk that something that they said they were interested in 6 months ago is now happening in the community, and making sure that that piece of data is connecting with that piece of data and that communication occurs. No longer do you have to do that manually or go and figure it out using spreadsheets or other tools. You might be able to use some of these more automated tools, more AI tools to assist you in that process. So that's just a snippet, automated newsletter generation, things like that. So there's a lot of stuff. And that's really just scratching the surface. There's some really interesting experiments going on, as you said. One thing I had heard of, and again, I don't think it's quite there yet, but all of you who are doing any kind of community building or managing will know that one of the things we need to do is often kind of identify certain social roles within a community. So who might be a great curator, a great moderator, a great librarian, a great facilitator or surrogate or ambassador, those sort of things. So can we use AI tools to help us figure that out? If we can come up with a set of behaviors or attributes that are somehow performed in the community that we can teach a piece of AI, this equals a potentially great ambassador. So it can generate those lists for us and say, these 4 people might be a really good candidate for that. Maybe you want to go and have a conversation with them. Particularly valuable if you're dealing with a very large community at scale and you don't have time to go and be monitoring individual behaviors and checking up on everyone.
Wow, that just like blew my mind, helping to pick ambassadors within communities with AI. I feel like my ambassadors would be offended if I picked them with AI. I did it with my human brain for last year.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? It's the direction of travel. Like I personally wouldn't be encouraging just using the AI in that instance. But again, if you've got lots of scale, that can be just a great shortcut. You might still, of course, it'll miss things as it always does. But they can be really useful to kind of help shortcut things along the way.
Definitely. And like what I'm hearing here, Ness, is that AI is helping us basically stop staring at a blank page. It's helping us get some sort of first draft, which really helps with being more efficient. Instead of staring at a blank Google Doc, we can put in a prompt with something like ChatGPT to give us some content ideas or give us some names that could be great for ambassadors to just get the thinking flowing. Because I feel like so many roadblocks happen with operators when they're trying to think of something from scratch, when really this can be their sidekick to help them be more productive in those moments. So yeah, thank you for sharing those. And Sam, let's go into your world. How have you and the Discourse team adopted AI into your work? I know you're building AI tools yourself into the Discourse product. Run us through that.
So I'll talk through a few examples of stuff that is happening all the time. The OpenAI forum is quite interesting in that, they're very early adopters of a lot of these features. One problem that they saw is that a lot of people just thought it's ChatGPT and started opening posts on the forum, pretending that it's ChatGPT and talking to it. One tool that we built there is OpenAI-based triage. So GPT triages every new post that comes into the forum. It reads it and it says, it looks like this person is talking to ChatGPT. I'll just reply and explain, look, you're in the wrong place, and hide that topic so they no longer see it. So that no longer litters the forum. So now this is stuff that used to take manual moderation and people used to have to read everything and go through it. But it's very trivial using this is all built into Discourse now, that you can build these kind of triage engines. Another thing that is very important that we're leaning on there is AI-based reporting. So we will read through all of the content that was put on the forum in the last week or the last day and generate a digest saying, look, these are all the interesting things that happened. So you basically feed all of these tokens into the language model, and out comes a very interesting and report that gives you, instead of saying, look, here's a list of things, it gives you a bit of a summary of every topic and tells you and tries to split it into what is more interesting, what is less interesting. Internally, we gave the entire company access to ChatGPT via Discourse, so they don't need to get their own accounts, and they can just go to our meta forum and just start talking to the various bots. And we support Anthropic Claude 3 and ChatGPT 4, so all of the absolute latest models with a whole bunch of integrations. Some things that are used quite heavily would be SQL authoring. So if you have to write these complicated reports, back in the old days, you'd send a letter to support, can you help me write this complicated report? And then you have to wait a long time to get a reply back. Whereas with these kind of tools, especially if it's aware of the schema of the database. So because we support custom personas, you can inject the entire schema and know what the database looks like. And then it's much better grounded and able to provide these reports of, tell me how many posts Sam posted last week. And it comes out with a bunch of SQL, which might look like alien language to you, but it's very safe to go and paste in and run on a read-only engine. So that happens. There's a lot of programming help that they get. So we've built integrations into GitHub. So you can search for repositories with words like, tell me what is going on here. What does this file do? And it just goes and pulls it from GitHub. Or what does this pull request do? And it tells them information. It's nice to have this buddy that you can just bounce ideas by, even if it makes mistakes and it hallucinates and it's not the perfect buddy. I've found it useful even for stuff that I'm doing. If I'm making a change, to say, let's just run it by the bot. Is there a better title for this PR that's a little bit clearer? Did I make some trivial mistake? Did I not consider this thing? I'd say my general use of as opposed to solving problems, it's more the brainstorming side that I really lean on. And I think that these tools are particularly good where you're not looking for the correct answer, and instead you're looking to brainstorm. And the other side is if you're not looking to brainstorm, then give it tasks that it's fit for. So it's able to detect if somebody's trying to talk to ChatGPT. If you give it all of the right instructions, it might not be able to tell the nuances of how the community is performing. Other tools that we use would be just general authoring. It's nice to have like copy editing, it's a spell checker on steroids. And plus you can give it custom instructions. So like you can just highlight something and make the tone more professional, make it more casual. You can kind of play with words. You've got like this bucket of words and you can meld it into different shapes, which is quite an interesting use case that is being used. Other AI bits and pieces that we're using, it improves search. So the search story has always been something that's very hard on communities to get a search that is beyond just, keywords. And a lot of these AI techniques give us like a search that is significantly more powerful and, resistant to typos and a lot more creative in the way that it finds results for you, which is interesting. And the other kind of very feature that we've landed everywhere is related topics is very important in forums. You've got like 1,000 different topics going on. How do you know which ones are related to this? So at the bottom of every topic now, we're using kind of AI techniques to figure out what is related to the content that I'm looking at. So that's a bit of a whirlwind tour of some of the tools, but yeah, this is all built into Discourse these days. You just kind of plug in your AI key and you can design different personas for different people to interact with. You can give different permissions so different groups have different access to different types of bots and so on.
That is so cool, Sam. Thanks for sharing all of that. I mean, how Discourse is using AI is really impressive. And I love the moderation elements. Obviously with so much content going on in online spaces, having that summary and the high level, here's the weekly recap, that's so practical. And obviously I just have this image of the Discourse team being really efficient all around the world with all of the AI integrations, which is really cool to see.
Well, yeah, from my perspective, I'd be happy if people are like 5-10% more effective. I'm not looking for 100x here, right? I'm looking for a tool that makes people more effective than they were before. And just banking on the fact that these models are getting better and better every year. So, if you're reaping 5% now, you might reap 10% next year and so on. But I would be careful approaching this saying, everybody's going to become 10x developers tomorrow. That's not what this does, but it does add, and like 5% would be amazing, it means that, it's adding something.
It reminds me of that saying, if you can strive for 1% improvement each day, you're better than where you were yesterday, and it's so realistic because AI can be quite confusing. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways people can use it, but if you find one thing that works for you and it makes you do something a little bit faster each time around, great. You're 1% better every day, which is great. 5% even then. And Bacco, I might come to you now about these kind of tech tools and getting into the specific AI tools that you're using. Do you have any recommendations of the actual other platforms that you've seen around the industry?
Yeah, sure thing. And as we were talking, Sam, I was checking out Discourse. So very cool. Like everything you were saying, I was like tracking on the website. That's awesome. For sure. All right, let me go into a couple of different tools that I use and I can highly recommend, and kind of like use cases as well. I mean, the first one, I'll just start with ChatGPT anyway. It's the classic, everybody started using it already. My tip essentially is to just ask a question and then keep asking questions to refine it. So often I think people get hung up until I need to design the perfect prompt and get it right the first time. But I'll actually just like keep prompting it just over and over again, and you just actually keep refining it. In particular, creating personas is super interesting. Talk to me like I'm whatever it is, librarian, lecturer, etc. And or really cool as well, it's like write this in the tone of a New York Times article or of a Shakespeare, like in the voice of Shakespeare. So super cool that way to get really specific kind of outputs. The second one that we love using internally at StartMate, and I actually asked Danny Wu, who's the head of AI at Canva, to give me his favorite Canva feature. And it is actually, if you jump onto Canva and if you put in a picture of two people, for example, one person, you then highlight everything around the faces, and you can literally prompt it to put that person into, I don't know, a suit of an astronaut, or make them a knight or like king or queen. And it's just hilarious, just for team entertainment. When we do team presentations, it's always fun to make the marketing team look like they're all riding horses or whatever it is like. But it's actually a really fun feature that way. So that one's on Canva. There's some awesome other features on Canva as well. They actually keep expanding the feature set as well. The third one I would actually would definitely have to mention, it's the fastest growing Aussie startup right now, is Leonardo.ai. It is absolutely going off. If you haven't heard about it, the team only launched 12 months ago. It is global from day one and absolutely exploding. It is actually in the visual space as well, and in particular creating images. So actually kind of similar-ish to Canva in that way, but actually way more focused on beautiful imagery of gaming in particular, but then actually very cool features to actually like with sliders up and down to make something more or less X and Y and Z. But then also launching the whole kind of video feature set, etc. So very, very cool. And the team is absolutely going off. Aussie team, which is awesome as well. Fourth one is, I actually was really interested myself. I posted on LinkedIn 2-3 weeks ago because I don't know if you've had this happen to you, but I jumped on a Zoom call that I was hosting and I invited a couple of 100 people to it. And and as I jumped on, I was like, there's 50 people in the waiting room. Oh my God. And I just jumped on, there was like 50 bots waiting for me, ready to take notes on the meeting. Not a single real person yet, but it was like the most on-time person was essentially the 50 bots. But then I was actually really interested of like, which bots do people use and are great. So I posted a link and the poll on LinkedIn just to have a look. So the most commonly used ones are Otter, Fireflies, and Tactic. So actually, if you use one of them, put it into the chat. I'm really curious as well if you use any of them and if you can recommend them, because you actually probably all have way more experience on this than I do. But the one which was the highest ranked one in terms of just number of people using it was Otter.ai. And the cool one here is obviously that it summarizes the meeting itself. It puts it into buckets of what was covered. Action items are summarized as well. I can see lots of people mentioning Otter. Very cool. And you get the summary. The hilarious thing was, as a host, I got another 50 emails back just summarizing it by Otter, by Fireflies as well, which was, well, they were all the same summaries. So it was also like,
yeah.
funny that way.
Oh, it's hilarious. I've like joined a meeting. It's been me and one person, and I'm like, "Why are there 5 people here?" And it's like AI summary, fine, the video, and I was like, "Oh, sorry."
All my friends, yeah. Yeah. So those ones are good ones for meetings. And if I'll give you a last tool, which is probably a little less well known, is I am a huge believer in Google Sheets over Excel. I love Google Sheets. And is a hill I'm willing to die on. The reason for that is collaboration, and they keep updating formulas, but also integrations. So one of the integrations actually is a ChatGPT integration. So if you go onto Google Sheets and click onto add-ons and search for add-ons, there's lots of great ones, but you can actually find the one of GPT for Sheets. That's what it's called. You can put it in the chat in a second. And you literally get a ChatGPT integration into your Google Sheet. Why does it matter? Because you can actually then put in equal GPT and open brackets and literally write a formula into a ChatGPT prompt, which refers back to other cells. So for example, if you've got cells and they list all the colors or whatever in one column, you can then be like, all right, write me, I don't know, a review of this blue coffee shop, X and Y and Z, and you can drag the formula down to make it blue, yellow, red, green, whatever you want. I mean, this is just a very simple, not that you would ever write a review based on color in that case, but you kind of get the idea. But so yeah, that's my final tip for you. I love it. Thank you for posting the link as well.
Yeah, there are so many great resources in the chat there, Backco. So we'll write up a resource library at the end of this using AI in the post follow-up email. But another tech tool that I'm loving with AI integrations is Butter. At the end of every session, I get a recap with an AI summary. It automatically takes the full transcript and it gives you automatic GIFs of the whole session and memes just that are automatically generated in a really nice present at the end of each session, which I will describe, and I'll share that with you all at the end of the wrap-up email. But, we've got about 10 minutes left, so I'm conscious of time, and I want to make sure we get some time for the audience Q&A. So for anyone here live, if you have a question, feel free to put that in the chat. Or for anyone bold, if you put your hand up and say, I have a question, use the Q function, and you can ask your question live here on stage. But I'm going to just quickly go 2 final questions for our crew here. And Ness, I want to dive into, we've talked about so many opportunities, how to become more efficient. Like, let's flip the coin. Like, what do we need to know about the dangers? What security concerns are there? Like, let's just ground everyone a little bit and understand what should we avoid doing with AI.
Yeah, and thank you for the question, because I think it's so easy, even someone like me who is looking at this sort of from a critical and research perspective as well, to get really caught up in all the exciting stuff. Really important to just keep it real and be like, cool, but here might be some challenges or some concerns with that. Look, and I think a lot of them get a lot of oxygen now. A lot of them are well discussed and talked about, so we won't sort of litigate all of them. But I think from the perspective of this focused conversation around communities and gathering audiences and gathering folk as founders or potential community builders, thinking about the stuff that AI often does really well. So things like scale, standardization, right? So it's often a standardization technology at its heart. When might that not really be appropriate for your community? So is your community actually so dependent on hyper personalized, hyper niche things that actually any kind of a standardizing AI might create some problems for you in that way? Or if it's an AI tool that creates or supports hyper personalization, for example, where might that be an issue? So one of the examples I use often was working with a really amazing mental health peer support community who wanted to create some productivity efficiencies, but was really mindful of the value that the community had for its participants. And some of that value was actually hanging out, reading stuff, reading as much testimony as possible, not going into rabbit holes, actually just being able to read a breadth of content, knowing they weren't alone, and kind of the witnessing and the testimony of that and the social discovery of that, the process of them going through that and discovering that had therapeutic and social value for this community in this case. So they were looking at a tool that would have resulted in sort of highly personalized and highly focused routing of individuals through the community to answers, the kind you might see in a support forum. But whereas with the support forum, you're probably there, you're not usually there to make friends, you might by accident, but generally like, I want my answer to my question as quickly and efficiently as possible. This was more about being seen, being heard, and these other social and cultural attributes. And this AI tool would have eliminated that value entirely and actually completely the bottom would have fallen out of the value of what this entire community was about. So they didn't use it, which was absolutely the right call. So thinking, I suppose, about that contextual integrity, what is it that you're really trying to do with this community or this audience or this product or whatever you're working on? Where is the social value? Where is the cultural value? What types of value sets are happening for members, for participants? And then just asking some really shrewd questions about, well, would this AI tool or this, how could it enhance that value, and making sure it's going to enhance that value for your members or your participants, but also how might it jeopardize that? Could it jeopardize that potentially? And the answer will sometimes be yes and sometimes no. Thinking also, of course, about ethics and values alignment, which is more important for certain folk than others. But there are quite a lot of issues with a lot of these large AI companies in terms of where they're obtaining their data, the integrity of that data bias. Yeah, again, very reams of information about this, incredible research, incredible work out there on this point. Something that's a little bit dodgy, maybe using, for example, underpaid data labelers in kind of in the global south, maybe not a company you want to align yourself with, or it might be less important to you as a company or as a brand. So being aware, doing a little bit of homework, it's often not terribly hard to find out this information. Just the same way you would with any kind of partner tool set, depends on how you're viewing that AI tool set. Of course, are you just a licensee or a subscriber, or are you actually looking for a deeper relationship? And doing that same kind of values assessment, that same kind of values alignment of, what do you guys stand for? What are you trying to do? How does that fit with who we are in the world and how we want to show up for our people? Are there issues with that? I think that's a big one. And I'll circle back around to the opportunity here by saying that The most interesting question for me that's come up a lot in my research in talking to folks using this technology is how it's the existential questions it's raising. So how it's making us reassess what is the value of the human in this practice? Because obviously it's always been a very human-centered practice, even though it's been always involved technology as well. How is that changing, and what is the opportunity around that? And I think that's much more of an opportunity than anything else. But I think it's really, really good to ask that question. I wouldn't be handing out. I'd be doing an assessment on all the types of tasks and aspects, social experiences within your group or community, and thinking, what impact would it have if I introduced AI here? It would have negligible impact on my members or users, but it's going to free up my time. Great, that could be a fantastic candidate then to apply a tool for. This might actually jeopardize something about this experience for my members, but it's good for me. Is that a trade-off I'm willing to make, etc.?
Yes.
And the last point I'll make, which is sort of putting my academic disruptor hat on for a minute, is being aware of power and who benefits, right? So again, not something that we're willing or able realistically to think about all the time in our day-to-day of work and doing the things we need to do, but asking yourself what systems you're buying into, who benefits, who's maybe not benefiting, other people being leveraged or exploited as a part of that process. That kind of fits in with the values alignment piece. That's my very broad tips.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, the biggest takeaway I take from that, Ness, is thinking, if I'm speaking to the community builders here in this space, managing a community, explaining how you're using AI to members, I think is quite key, like updating community guidelines. Where is the data going in that sense? We've got a community guidelines template that kind of helps people think through a lot of those questions, just so a lot of us are really aware going forward. So yeah, there's a lot of insights in there, which is cool. And I want to kind of, dive into this one element, this human touch. And Sam, we had a question pre-submitted on the registration about, do you have any advice about how we can ensure how we're balancing using the tech while still preserving that human touch in our interactions and work?
Yes. One suggestion is that I'd like everybody to follow is to always label AI content. I think that is very, very important. And as these tools come out, if you go to a forum and 90% is AI generated and there aren't any humans there, and nothing is labeled, it's the destruction of basically communication. So in all the features that we build, we're always very careful to have like this little AI label on it. And I think this should carry for any kind of content that you're creating yourself on ChatGPT, if you're creating it from scratch, and don't pass it on as yourself if it was created by ChatGPT, and if ChatGPT assisted you in like a material way beyond like, fixing 3 spelling mistakes, then you should definitely call that out and make sure that everybody does.
Yeah, it's labeling, like how do we credit the blogs that ChatGPT have helped us write? If we were writing and synthesizing something from an article or an author, we would credit that human. So I think labeling and crediting AI, there's nothing wrong with that. So I think that's a great call out, Sam. And Batco, I might ask you about some of the advice. Let's go into a bit of a rapid fire round, and I'll get to Agostine's question as well here. But Batco, do you have any advice for anyone here about leveraging AI better?
Right. Big question.
Let's
Is this rapid fire, not rapid fire?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Is it rapid fire? Okay.
It's rapid fire. So anything that comes off the top of your head around advice that you'd give to someone using AI.
Sure. So rapid fire would just be, I use it kind of at the beginning, but I always put my own polish on it. So for example, like summarize something, but you always want to put it in your own tone. The second one would actually be about keep prompting it. So don't rely on the first question. Literally, sometimes it's even about asking, is this true? Which is a hilarious question. So then you can even find out even more about whether what it actually gave you is correct or not, or why it might not be. Putting in personas is a super interesting one of all right, this is kind of the kind of audience you're speaking to, or this kind of the kind of voice I would like you to have. And Yeah, those are kind of like the top of my head thoughts there.
Yeah, I love those ones, especially, the persona is such a great one and such a nifty tool. And I think, I want to give light to Agustine's question here, which is Ness for you, and we're still going to answer this in rapid fire round. So a couple sentences, Ness. Any recommendations on AI tools for networking matching within communities is Agustine's question.
Oh, excellent question. I will throw some in the chat and they can be included in the AI summary because they're not at the top of my head right now. I'm so sorry. What they do tend to do, and this is where I think I'd like to see it evolve, is that they're very focused on specific use cases. So a lot of them are event specific. So we're having an event, we want to sort of create FOIA matching and kind of attendee matching and things like that. A couple of community ones, and then a lot of other very different context ones. So there's not enough community ones for my liking yet, but there's a handful. So I will share them in the chat as we keep going, and I'll make sure they get in the summary for you.
I love that. We should have just AI generated all of our answers for this panel and and shared them. No, we like the human elements talking about AI. All right, everyone, we're gonna wrap it there. It's been a big conversation, and first I just want to thank our panel. Please, everyone, let's give a huge round of applause for Ness, Batco, and Sam for donating their human time to our human-led event here. And before we wrap up, Sam, Batco, Ness, I'd love to hear, how can everyone connect with you after this session if they'd love to learn more about you and the incredible organizations you build? So Sam, where's the best place for everyone to go?
Well, I can be reached on Twitter. I'll share my Twitter handle, and definitely discourse.org to just check out Discourse, and it should point you in all the right directions.
Amazing. Thanks, Sam. What about you, Batco?
I run StartMate, which is a startup accelerator. So if you have a startup, definitely check it out. Or if you want to find a job in a startup or invest in a startup. But in terms of AI, I run a side hustle, which is called Puddlepod. I just posted a link. We have a 5-week productivity course, but also a 5-week AI course. So if you actually want to dive really deep into use cases, but also build your own AI, that's actually week 4 and 5 out of it as well. And if you don't want to go quite as deep, I do write a weekly tiny little tip and trick, which is also on puddlepod.substack.com. So it gets you the 1-minute mini tip every Tuesday morning.
Yeah, I love Batco's newsletters. Definitely find those. And what about you, Ness?
I'm pretty easy to find because I have a slightly unusual name as well, if you just Google me. But my, I used to be Twitter back in the day. But these days, probably AustralianCommunityManagers.com.au, which is sort of where we do, as you said earlier, Paz, kind of a lot of our sort of peak body work. We do training, we do research. Basically, anyone working in communities in Australia, we help them out. We've been doing that for 15, 16 years now, a bit of a time. You can also find me on LinkedIn. It's probably my preferred professional contact these days. And just my normal website, vanessapope.com is, all roads lead to that as well. If you want to talk about research and study and all that sort of stuff, you'll find me through the University of Sydney, which is where I'm teaching and doing my doctorate.
Oh, thank you all so much once again on behalf of everyone here. It's been such an awesome session. And, I just want to also thank everyone who has joined us here live, who has been watching in the future on the recording. And of course, a massive shout out to the team at Discourse for bringing this event to life with us. We've had Hawk here live, which is awesome. May and Andre as well from their team. It's been absolutely incredible. I highly encourage you to check out Discourse is the new home for your online community. And as well, we've just got a couple announcements before we wrap. So really, if this is, been an event that you have enjoyed, we would love to hear the feedback that you have for this session. Our incredible team member, Sanchi from the CC, will share a link in the chat where if you share some feedback about this event, what you thought, what you think we could do better, we would love to hear it. And you'll get an instant gift to get access to our community guidelines template for free as soon as you submit that feedback. And as well, if you'd like any support to build a community strategy for your business, thinking about how you can ensure that your members are highly engaged and remain with you for a long time, please reach out to us via hello@thecommunitycollective.co. You can also find us at thecommunitycollective.co via our website. We have a community cohort training program where we would love to welcome you in. The next one kicks off from the 8th of April, so let me know if you want to sneak in a late application. But it's been such a pleasure having you all here today. The gift is the gift that you get at the end of the feedback. I've written the gift twice. But yeah, it's been such a pleasure hosting this session for you all. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your human day. Thank you all so much. And bye, everyone. See ya. Thank you.
Bye, folks. Thank you.
Bye.
You say you want a revolution. Well, you know, we all want to change the world. You tell me that it's evolution. Well, you know, we all want to change the world. But when you talk about destruction, don't you know that you can count me out? Don't you know it's gonna be alright? Alright. Alright. You say you got a real solution. Well, you know, we'd all love to see the plan. You asked me for a contribution. Well, you know, we all doing what we can. But if you want money for people with minds that hate, all I can tell you is, brother, you have to wait. Don't you know it's gonna be alright? Alright. Alright. You say you'll change the Constitution. Well, you know, we all want to change your head. You tell me it's the institution. Well, you know, you better free your mind instead. But if you go carrying pictures of Chairman Mao,